Alright guys, welcome back to another one. We're loading some TSS today. Finally. We're just breaking into some TSS shot. We filmed a 1 3/4 ounce 16 gauge TSS hand load at the range about 2 weeks ago now. And to be honest, they didn't do too well, but it's not the load, it is the gun. We used my 1148, Remington 1148 with a poly choke. And the poly choke, it's hit or miss. Some loads it performs really well. Others, it scatters the shot around for absolutely no reason at all. We have taken the same load and fired it through our single shots and taken the identical load and shot it through the poly choke. Did awful out of the poly choke and pretty well out of the single shot. 16 gauge full choke is roughly 63 cal. The tightest setting on the poly choke measures 6'1", so we set the poly choke to its tightest setting, and it kind of blew the pattern out a little bit. It wasn't a terrible pattern, not by any means, but it wasn't anything like what we saw out of the 12 and 10 gauge TSS loads we did from Salt Creek. Those were just a nightmare on turkeys. These were more lead shot style patterns at 42 yards. Nothing special. They were tight enough to absolutely get the job done on a turkey at 42 yards and probably beyond that. But they just weren't as tight as we would like them to be. But I think some point in the not so distant future, I'm going to get a TriStar G2 16 gauge, something that has removable, interchangeable chokes, and stick with that for, you know, patterning purposes. I'll hang on to the 1148 because that gun cycles anything, 7/8 ounce, very light loads, all the way up to 1 3/4 ounce, just fine. That gun has actually never given us any hiccups, no malfunctions whatsoever. And it is a Remington, and it's worth quite a bit of money. The one I have is in pretty decent shape, so I'm not getting rid of it by any means, but the gun is just not performing on paper like we want it to with some loads. It seems to really like a buckshot inside of non-tox wads like a CSD or BP 1680. The poly choke also causes the gun to hit high and right from point of aim, and that's just annoying. It is, however, already drilled and tapped for a rear sight or possibly even an optic. I don't want to stick a red dot on that thing because it would just look off. But it needs a rear sight, something taller to get over that poly choke. That way it's not hitting so dang high. The settings on that poly choke are just off. You can turn the poly choke on that gun anyway past its full choke setting, which isn't full choke, it's measuring 0.62, which is a good bit tighter than full choke. So, it's just how it is. Anyway, I've rambled long enough. Those loads were roll crimped using a Federal once fired haul. This one's actually twice fired, but you'll notice this has a fold crimp on it. How did I roll crimp a fold crimp? Easy. Tapered curling iron from Dollar General. I have a Dollar General about 300 yards from my house that way. Handy thing to have. This was $8, and all you do is turn it to its lowest setting, which is 5 on the dial. Stick it in there until it's tight and wait. Whenever you see the crimp start to see them white lines, you might be able to see it. When you see those turn purple and it starts to flatten back out and loses its shape, it's ready to run under some cold water. This one is actually ready to go right now, and all you do is unplug it. Got it unplugged and run it underneath some cold water and it'll hold its shape. Ready to roll crimp this. And these hulls have a paper base wad, so careful not to get water down inside the hull. But as you can see, it looks like a let me get this water off here. Sort of like a new hull now. This one, since it's twice fired, you can still see some of the crimp lines a little bit, but look at this. It's dirty as can be. And sorry guys, that trick does not work with shot hulls. The plastic is way too thin, it just melts them. But it works with these Federals really well. Next, we'll be needing a 209A primer, or any Magnum primer right here. Easy enough to install. Have this press set up for 20 gauge. Primer is installed. That's all I needed the press for, was just installing the primer. It had already been deprimed and resized. Now we need, let me get this bottle out of the way, 32 grains of little gun. This is going to get you in the high 1200, low 1300 FPS range, which is plenty for TSS. The Lee 2.2 cc dipper drops 34 grains of little gun, so what you need to do is just dump a little bit out until you have 32 grains. And I have it right there, 32 grains. You can use either the CSD 16 wad if you have them, but those are very hard to get right now. Pretty much only available on Gunbroker to people that are just getting rid of them. But the BP 1680 wad is what I recommend using here. It's a little bit thicker, sturdier wad. But yeah, the CSD 16 is kind of unobtainable right now. If you have the old PT 1680 wad, you can also use that. It's also called the VP 80 wad from Precision Reloading, but I'm using the BP 1680. It's the Ballistic Products re-release of the PT 1680. This wad is great. Use it for buckshot a lot. But this is Gary Caskey's 12 or 16 gauge wad slitting tool. It is adjustable. The brass dial right here. Tighten it or loosen it, and that controls the depth of your blades. I have this set to do a 4-pedal 3/4 cut, which is what I prefer on just about everything. 4 pedals, 3/4 cut. Go ahead and drop that right down inside your hull. Gonna grab this wad tamper here, also made by Gary. You can also use your press to seat that, but I'm just using the wad tamper. Next, we need a 20 gauge. 28 gauge would be, 24 gauge would be preferable, but I'm using a 20 gauge 1/4 inch felt wad. Stumbling over my words a little bit. Just get that down inside there. Again, 24 gauge would be preferred, but the 20 gauge fits just fine. It's soft felt, it conforms to the inside of the wad. You can see it doesn't bulge the hull out at all. On top of that, we need a 24 gauge nitro card. These actually fit the wad like a glove. You can actually see that, I hope. But now, compress that down a little bit with the press. I guess I lied to you, I'm using the press for one more step. We need a Ballistic Products Mylar wrap. This is the My Slim Mylar, used for small bores. And this is what it looks like. I say that as you can't see it at all. I have something in my hand, I promise. But anyway, Mylar wrap, just roll it up, set it down inside your wad. Comes up right, well, almost to the top of the wad. There's no way you can see that Mylar in there, I know. But we are ready for shot. We need 1 3/4 ounces of TSS shot. I'm using number 9. Have a little bit of it in here. And this is what the shot looks like. Careful not to spill any. This stuff's expensive. TSS number 9. Sorry for the weird camera angle, guys, but ideally you want your wad filled up all the way to the top, and it is. This is 1 3/4 ounces of TSS number 9. And to that, we're going to add a half a scoop of the Lee 2.2 cc dipper of Ballistic Products buffer. You can use any one of them you want. I am using the ITX buffer, which has been rebranded to BSB buffer. This stuff is actually for TSS, bismuth, and steel shot, non-toxic. And the last thing before we roll crimp this is a 3/4 inch bingo chip. I shaved it down to fit 16 gauge with a flat file. That's all I did. So, bingo chip. I chose purple because the hull is purple. Hopefully you guys can see this pretty well. I really don't know. Can't really see my camera that well, but using the Reloaders Network 4-pin 16 gauge roll crimp tool, this thing is awesome. So, alrighty guys, we got it done. I'll show you better here in just a second, but that looks nice to me. And here she is in all her turkey smashing glory. Very, very nice roll crimp. Perfectly even, nothing wrong. Looks like a factory load right there. Looks like Federal loaded this themselves. I think it's pretty. Purple and gold. Purple bingo chip. Amazing. Here you go. Now, much better view. Like I said, it looks pretty. You can see the buffer and the pellets in there. This is just a beautiful looking shell. Like I said, it looks like Federal may have loaded this one themselves. This is not even close to how heavy you can load a 16 gauge with a TSS shot. You'll notice I used a 1/4 inch felt wad and a 1/8 inch 24 gauge nitro card. The maximum payload for TSS shot in a 16 gauge is, anybody got a guess? 2 1/4 ounces with the right powder. And that powder would be Alliant 300 MP. I do not have any. However, little gun is good to 1 7/8 ounces. This is just 1 3/4 ounces. I'm sure all of you TSS guys have heard of Apex ammunition, but if you haven't, Apex offers a really nice 1 5/8 ounce 16 gauge TSS S-load. So, factory heavy 16 gauge TSS loads do exist. If you want something heavier, go to Salt Creek Custom Ammunition. Keith can load you pretty much anything you want. He's a big fan of 16 gauge, just like I am. He even makes 3 ounce 10 gauge TSS loads. Let us know what you want to see done with TSS. We can pretty much load any gauge up from 20 and up. We do not have any TPS wads in 28 gauge yet, or 410, and well, they don't make them for 24 and 32 gauge. So yeah, there's that. So just let us know, what do you want to see us load with TSS? Anyway guys, I think that's going to do it for me. Please like and subscribe, we always appreciate that. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below and we'll get back to you. If you want to, go check out our Patreon. It's as low as $1 a month. You get early access to content. A link to that will be in the description below, along with a link to our Instagram and Rumble accounts. But other than that, you guys take it easy. We'll see you in the next one.